Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Last 5mm romance update. 4 out of 5 of these are sports or sports adjacent romances as well because I'm me. Alrighty, so we're going to jump straight in with Aftermath by L.A. Witt. It is part of the Vino and Veritas series that I'm trying to read this year. I also have another book from the same universe. In here it is a multi-author shared universe. In this case we are following Brent, who is 29, he's a former hockey player. And it's his relationship with John, who is 41 and a single dad who is also a massage therapist and also budding singer. He sings at Vino and Veritas, and that's kind of how they first cross paths. So Brent's hockey career ended when he was in a car accident. He broke his pelvis, he had a hip replacement, and on top of numerous prior hockey injuries, that's basically left him in a lot of pain. And part of that, he is also dealing with erectile dysfunction, which is a huge part of the story, which you don't often see in romance books, and I really like that it was included in here because it was a part of their relationship that actually affected them and they needed to work through, and Brent needed to really unpack with both his partner and also his medical professionals. John himself was married for 20 years. He knew he was bisexual. For memory, I think he's still got a decent relationship with his ex-wife, which if that's the case, because I've read a couple of books where we've had good relationships and bad relationships. I like the ones where they have decent relationships with their ex-partners. He has 50-50 custody of the child from the relationship, and part of what he's doing, so he's a massage therapist by day, but he also plays musical sets at Vino Veritas, and their relationship is really one of healing for both of them. One is emotional healing, one is kind of physical and emotional healing, because Brent is obviously struggling with sex and feeling like himself. There's an age gap in this. Brent is 29, John is 41, so Brent is dealing with the fact that they're both still young, but he's not in his 30s yet, and he's dealing with all of these things, and it's a really big thing for him. And John is very patient, very understanding, very considerate. We love it when our characters are considerate, particularly because Brent is dealing with constant chronic pain. He is going to a lot of physical therapy and also eventual therapy. He's also dealing with the fact that his father is a really toxic influence in his life. They both end up with dogs, and these dogs then are also a big part of their relationship and are kind of like their fur babies on top of the actual child that is part of their lives as well. And it's the two of them really thinking about, okay, well, what's next in this stage of their life? So they build a really solid relationship. All of that is really, really good. They've got open communication, and really Brent is thinking about, okay, well, what's next? Because he had a career, he was incredibly successful, and his career was derailed before he was expecting it, through no fault of his own. He wasn't the cause of the car accident. The thing that I loved is they plan to open a shelter for dogs after they adopt their dogs. I'm like, bless. We love them. But yes, this one, I've talked a lot about a few things which would be content warnings, but also there's homophobia, gaslighting, a toxic parent, and parents pushing kids into professional sports, which is a big part of the story that I haven't really touched on, but is something that Brent is beginning to reflect on as he's reflecting on his career in hockey, and the fact that maybe it wasn't something at a pathway that he was ever going to choose, particularly because he's now dealing with long-term effects of injuries due to the sport that started. These injuries started accumulating when he was a kid. I think that's a really interesting topic to explore. It's probably a discussion video. So that one was kind of hockey adjacent. Then I read Make the Play by Lucky Hart. This is the second book in the King of Hearts series. I am reading the series out of order. This book was recommended to me by my good friend Kirsty. We have Jason, who is a high school coach, teacher, head of the sports department, and he's very happy-go-lucky. He's got a good life. He's got a great best friend. His best friend is currently dating his younger brother, which is the first book, which I would go back and read. He loves his job. He's got some fur babies. I think he himself is the biggest golden retriever character that you will ever meet. On day one of the new school year, he finds himself as the welcoming committee for Emerson, who is the new high school English teacher. And Emerson is autistic. He's very introverted. He's trying to build a new life for himself in a space where he can be himself. Jason just is kind of charmed by him straight away. Jason at this point doesn't consider himself bisexual, but he begins to spend a lot of time with Emerson, and he realizes that, okay, maybe my feelings are more than just platonic, because this guy is fantastic, he's great. And it's incredibly neuroaffirming because Emerson does, throughout the course of the book, experience overstimulation a bit, and Jason has to learn what that looks like for him and how he can help Emerson in those situations and what Emerson needs. And it's very, 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 very neuroaffirming. It does have a bisexual awakening, and kind of Jason's slow realization that he's completely into Emerson is just adorable, and it's very, very sweet. Like, it's super sweet and really lovely, and I had a great time. There is a toxic old school teacher in here. We don't love to see that rap. We don't love to see that rap as teachers, but for a book about teachers, this one worked for me. I also read The Poster Boy by E.M. Denning, which is part of the Love the Game multi-author, multi-sport series that I'm currently reading. I'm really loving it. This one follows Marek, who is an up-and-coming goalie who unintentionally ends up outed. So it's a forced outing story at the very start of the book. And instead of getting angry, frustrated, etc. about it, he goes on a media offensive in that he gets in front of the cameras and is charming and is lovely and just takes the opportunity to talk to them, which kind of rubs his current team the wrong way. He ends up traded to a new team, and the new team also don't know how to take this. They think that he is just a media attention person and that he is trying to get in front of the cameras, when really what he's trying to do is he's trying to stay in front of his own story, and he doesn't want people to turn around and stereotype him or write negative things about him, because there's the trauma of being forcibly outed, right? And his love interest in the story is Jay, who is a defenseman on the team, who is not very nice to him at the start, because Jay fully believes that he is an attention whore and is just trying to be in front of the cameras all of the time, and he thinks that Marek is going to be bad for the team. However, both of them are on this dating app and they end up hooking up with each other in a hotel room while on the road. It really forces Jay to begin to understand where Marek is coming from and why things are the way they are, because Marek is out, Jay is not. A few people know that Jay is queer, but most people do not. And it is this realization of kind of each other's reasonings and why they've chosen to approach it in the way that they have. I did really enjoy this one. I've not read E.M. Denning before, so it was a really interesting read, and I would probably pick up some more books in the future. Content warnings in this one for homophobic parents who disowned their own child, and also the forced outing. Then coming back to Vino and Veritas, I read Stronghold by Anna Ashley. This one is Skylar and Judson's story. They are former childhood best friends who are separated and haven't seen each other in 10 years. Judson has just come home. Skylar is currently running his own maple farm, but he is also helping to run his family's farm because his father has a gambling addiction and cannot be trusted to run anything to do with the farm. The finances are always questionable. And this is really frustrating to him because he has grand plans for his own business, but he kind of hasn't been able to spend any really dedicated time expanding it because he's been so busy focused on making sure that his family is okay. Judson, on the other hand, was a world-class chef. He was trained overseas. He was dating another guy who was also a chef. And then he's ended up split from his boyfriend, who I think was sleeping with a young guy. And there's also a food critic who basically panned the restaurant that he had with his boyfriend. And so he's come home, he's frustrated, he's still embroiled with the ex who is making life very difficult in terms of separating their assets. And to make ends meet, he's currently working as a bartender at Vino and Veritas, and that's where their paths cross. And they end up reconnecting and sort of talking through what happened in the past and where they are in their life at the current point. And they ultimately end up entering into a reality TV show that's happening in town, which is around temporary restaurants that are set up based around different themes. And they come up with the idea of running a restaurant that is all centered around maple syrup, which is a big export from this town, particularly given that Skylar runs a farm and that Judson is a chef who can turn this whole thing into a concept and have a really cool concept where the menu would change frequently based on local produce, and the purpose behind it is meals that people could recreate. And so for their dining experience, you get to take home a recipe card based off one of the recipes from the restaurant so that you can recreate it at home, because the menu will change frequently enough that it's not an issue. I really like that aspect. It was a small part of the story. It was kind of in the second half of the book, but it was really kind of fun and cute because they end up working together. And most of it is to help build up Skylar's brand and promote his maple syrup and things like that. But it does open up an avenue for Judson as well, which is great. Also, there are farmer markets in here. I love a story with a farmer's market. There is content warnings for the parent with a gambling addiction, financial stress. There's some body image and weight loss journey discussions in here, so just be mindful of that if you're sensitive to it. I've read worse, but it is in there. And then finally, I read Full Tilt by Becca Seymour, and I do have a physical copy of this book, but it's underneath a pile of books and I am not going to grab it. It is part of the Love the Game series, and this one is set over mostly in the UK. There is a short stint where they're all back in the US. We are following Camden, who is the captain of the Exeter Seagulls, which is a rugby team, and it's his relationship with Brent, who is a tattoo artist who is originally from the US but has been living in the UK for a while. Camden's usual tattoo artist is planning on moving to the US, and so Brent is tentatively leasing Camden's tattoo artist's studio with the future goal of eventually taking it over and taking over the clients. And Camden is very particular about who does his tattoos, and so he is very wary and tentative around Brent initially, but the two really get each other. Like Brent really sees into who Camden is, particularly being a high profile athlete who is out, who is known for being out. It's very much a Grumpy Sunshine book. There is no third act breakup in here. There's an awesome found family both with the sports teams but also with Brent's family back in the US, because they do end up in the US. But this one, I will say, there are content warnings in here for a sports injury to the throat, hospitalization and surgery, so there is discussion around that, so be mindful if that is a trigger for you at all. And those are the last 5 romances that I have read. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking them up, or do you have recommendations for similar books based on the same titles? I think I only have 2 books left of the Love the Game series. The most recent books only just come out when I'm filming this one, and then there's one more after it. I'm hoping to kind of start just getting through the rest of the Vino and Veritas series as well. Fingers crossed that that's happening soon. Otherwise, if you just want to let me know that you're here but you don't leave a comment, leave a wine glass emoji to let me know that you're here. And no, I do not drink wine. Wine gives me a headache. But leave a wine glass emoji, since we're trying to make some good headway into the Vino and Veritas series. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.